Hey, this is George, and this is Real Talk with George and Frazier. Frazier will be joining us shortly, but today's guest is Florida State uh, Republican candidate for the State House, Mr. Angel S. Urbina. Welcome to the show. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
good evening.
Good evening. How are you? I hope I
Very
didn't butcher
good.
your name too much, Mr. Urbina. Do I have it correct?
Let me get more volume here. I can hear you better now.
All right, beautiful. I was saying, I apologize. I hope I didn't butcher your name, Mr. Is it Urbina?
Yes, that's my last name.
Urbina, absolutely. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. We definitely appreciate you having us. Like I said, Frazier will be here shortly. But we wanted to talk to you a little bit about your race and some of the ideals that you wanted to bring to District is 62. Am I correct?
Yeah, 62.
All right. So talk to us a little bit about what gave you the the decision to run. I know a lot of people running for public office. It's a decision that you kind of have to make because of all the scrutiny and people looking into your public life, and it takes so much of your time with campaigning and everything that goes along with it. It takes a special kind of person to run for public office. So, what was your inspiration and desire to run for this particular seat in this district?
Well, I've been watching what's going on in politics in general, and regular people that have to go to work, buy groceries, and endure all the basic things of life are not in office.
Hmm.
We have certain people running for different positions, and at the end of the day, they're not making the right decisions for us. And many people think that election means president and Congress, and down the ballot, they don't even care.
Hmm.
And every single aspect of our lives, from picking our trash all the way to uh, uh, the justice systems, is at the local level, is county or state.
Right.
So I've been watching a couple of things in Florida. We have a good income tax. Actually, we don't have income tax in Florida, which is an advantage compared to other states. But there are many areas that we can improve. For example, areas like education. Right now, we are investing a lot of money in education that doesn't reflect in the real importance of education, which is the students.
Right.
We are not getting enough money to the students and the teachers, and most of the money is expended at the administration. The school board is the one that decides where to spend the money, and we're spending too much in salaries that are not serving the main purpose. So that's one of the things that I make me run. I used to be a teacher. The other area is I'm a business owner. So I've been watching how many hurdles we have to go through, how many hoops we need to jump through in order to get our business established, and then all the taxes that we have to pay, all the permits that we need to find. So that's the other thing that I want to get there and fix. We need to make sure that our entrepreneurs has all the tools in one place, get everything done quick and cheap, because the more business that are established, then the more taxes we're going to get in without taxing too much each individual. So those are the things that people don't realize that impact our lives, change the way we do things. And that's what prompted me to run, because I was looking at, even I'm a Republican, and I was looking at Republicans that were having the same values that I have, but still not doing all the job that needs to be done. So in my case, District 62 has been in Democrat hands for almost 20 years. We didn't have a Republican candidate since 2012. So that tells you that the parties basically control which districts they basically own. That's the concept of gerrymandering, is that they sit down and say, okay, this area is mainly Republican. Let's delineate that district. Then this area is Democrat. And we need to change that. We're human beings, and we need to get treated fairly in every area of the state. So that's why I decided to run.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. I have multiple questions, so from education to business and also gerrymandering, because I'm in New Jersey, Frazier's in Miami, and California that we know of is the only state that actually has regulation on the books and laws on the books against gerrymandering. Like you said, it's set up so each party has a piece of the pie the way they corral their votes in place to keep certain amount of power. I want to start with gerrymandering. What do you think Florida can do when it comes to that? Because I know we've had the conversation. I've had the conversation with some local leaders, with some business leaders and friends and everybody. And we all feel like our vote doesn't count when it comes to the local and state level simply because of how the districts are cut up. There's only there's only really the governing bodies that are in place, and they consist of in New Jersey, they consist of members of the Democratic Party and they consist of members of the Republican Party. And there's a map that they just put in place and say, okay, we're going to do something like a little heart because that's the Republicans are, and you guys don't want that. You guys can take up north in New Jersey because we know in this particular XYZ frame that we're going to put as a district, that's where all the Democrats are. And, it's always cut me the wrong way, if I'm just being honest, because there's no other job, there's no other business that you can have, there's no other, like in law enforcement, or if you're in front of a judge, you can't stack your jury. If you can't there's no other thing that you can put in place where you can always stack the cards in your favor, so to speak, except in politics where they carve up the districts the way that they do. What do you think is not being done on the state level that you can bring to the state house that says, okay, listen, let's try to do something about gerrymandering? That's the first thing, and then
Yeah,
we'll move on to the other questions I have.
yeah. What I think that it will be the best and the most fair way to do it is based on the census. Let's define how many individuals are supposed to be in a state house district, and how many, and then carve the map according to population, regardless of how many voters of each parties are in there. If we do it like a math problem without thinking of who lives there, no. Let's get the map divided by the amount of people living there, and that's it. Right now, there have been districts that are ridiculous, like a single strip down the map, like in case of the County Commission District 1 in here in Hillsborough. It's ridiculous. It has a weird shape. It's like an L
Hmm.
and goes down the coast. And then you have all the districts that are basically right now in Hillsborough. District 1 is mainly Republican, and District 2 is Republican, and District 4 is Republican, and then District 3 is Democrat. Then we have 3 at large or countywide seats that obviously, since it's countywide, it's a toss up. But they have 4 districts that 1 is Democrat and 3 are Republican. In the Florida House is the same way. Districts are carved in a weird way. So right now we have the census being finished, and the next legislative session is in the summer. So I hope that we can work on that in that session, so we can change the process of creating the districts. And I understand that, yeah, parties will be involved, but we need to have regular citizens involved in that process, like a citizens commission to review those.
So you're for a citizens commission. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah,
A lot of organizations and group and state groups don't like citizens coming in because they feel like they don't know the process. But like you were saying, it affects the citizens every day. They know better than anybody else. what is affecting them and what is and what's not working. So you're
Yeah,
for
and we need to
citizens committee.
yeah, we need to change it in a way that is, since citizens are the ones exercising the right to vote, citizens have the opportunity to come in and review the process and say, okay, this is fair. Let's go ahead with this
Right.
and approve the proposal of the districts instead of backroom deals by the parties. Right now, in my campaign,
Hmm.
I have a group of volunteers that I work with other candidates, and we get those people involved. We tell them how things work, and they are making a revolution. The Republican Party of Florida has their own way to do things. The Republican Party of Hillsborough has their own way to do things. But I come up with this group of patriots, and we have to make a revolution in Hillsborough County. We are campaigning differently. For example, caravans. That's a new thing here in Florida. We started caravans in February and knocking on doors. My campaign I haven't raised more than $12,000, but I've been knocking on doors every single day. Only me, I have knocked $4,000 without counting the rest of the volunteers. So we have impacted more than 12 to 15,000 people with flyers, knocking on the door, talking about what I propose. Here's the flyer. You can read it in the flyer. You can go to the website. And that's what I've been doing. And according to the exit polls, I'm winning. So money is needed for ads, for material, for gas, but it's not the main thing. The main thing here is reaching to voters, talking face to face, and showing a candidate that is a human being, that is someone that is interested in making change, someone that is not looking at colors or at social status or ethnicity. Go to the door. You're American, right? You're living here. You are enjoying the benefits and paying the price. So let's work this out together. And I've encountered a lot of Democrats that are telling me, I'm voting for Biden, but locally I'm voting for you because they saw my face and I was in their house. So that same revolution that I made in the politics arena, I will do it when elected to the Florida House, bringing people to be part of the process. And I'm already creating a group of people that will review all the bills and make sure that everything is good. And I'm human. I will not be able to read everything that is being decided, but I will have a great group of people that will be helping me reviewing all the bills, not only the ones that I'm creating, but the ones that other people are bringing up that I will make a decision for yes or no. So that's the part, bringing the people in.
Bringing the people together.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up on two things. Frazier, welcome to the show. I'm glad you made it.
Hey, how you doing? Sorry about that.
That's okay. No problem.
Very good.
Um, Now back to businesses. As a business owner, you mentioned at the top of the show that there was an issue, like either the process for application and things like that was too long. What are some of the things that you would correct to make entrepreneurs and business owners more comfortable doing business in Florida and to be able to do business a lot faster? And add on to that, excuse me, a little bit more transparent than what we've been seeing coming out of Florida.
Yeah. One of the things that I will change is that process that because I'm your friend, I will be able to get my permit faster, or because I know you, you will let me know what are the specific things that I have to do in order to get my permits. We need to change that. We need to make it fully transparent that all the process of getting permits, paying the local taxes, all of that be simple, one location. One of the things that I've been experiencing here in my district, there is a Dominican supermarket. the 809 supermarket in Waters Avenue. Those individuals wait 6 months just to get everything in place to open the door. They have everything situated inside the supermarket. Everything was ready, but because of the permits, they had to wait 6 months. And they already have paid the city tax, the county tax,
Worth of rent, right?
all the state process without making one penny. We need to change that. We need to bring entrepreneurs maybe less than a month or even less. It can be in a week. You get into a local office where all the permits will be worked out in the same location, same day. You fill all the unnecessary paperwork, you get to that office, you pay whatever you have to pay, you get the permit, you bring the plans of your building, everything done in one day. That way, next day, that entrepreneur will be able to go open the business and start making money. How are we going to collect taxes if they're not making money?
Right.
True.
And if you're not a business owner, you don't realize that. If you're just a career politician that are seated there, okay, let's do this for my friends or for the people that make the donations. No. If you see, my donations are less than $2,000. So my allegiance is to the people, to the constituents. And we need to make sure that everybody has a fair chance of the American dream, having their own business and prosper.
That's true.
I just to follow up, Frazier, one question. I just have to follow up.
Okay,
I actually have two questions, but I know you came in to have questions, so just give me a minute. With that particular scenario, sir, do you think, and I just have to ask this because it was a Dominican supermarket, that it wasn't a priority? Because I feel like if it was a counterpart, they would have had a supermarket in that area without pulling teeth. Everything would have been in place without starving them for 6 months to see if they stand or not. Because we see the same thing here in New Jersey where uh, businesses and places of color, it takes just a little bit longer for them to get the permits, the buildings. They're more scrutinized when it comes to the permits if the place is up to standard, and the counterparts would, their counterparts would be up and running in 2-3 months, you know. So do you think it was more that, or do you think that the process is just stalled in your area and in your district?
I think it's a combination of the process plus who knows who, and not just ethnicity or color, or it's more who is your friend.
Okay.
Because I've seen other examples that people that of color, but they know who they need to know.
Right.
It's quick.
Okay. Appreciate it. Phrase, go ahead.
Okay. Let me go back on a bit of question. Okay. Now, in your area, as a whole school area, what do we do at the mom and pop businesses that compared to the corporation like a Walmart or something like whatever? Like, are you gonna do any incentives or policies or bills to help out the mom and pop businesses to stay in business in competition with the Walmarts, the Eckers, and all of those stores that you do back in the days? Are you gonna be able to like help them out more with initiatives, like grants or stuff like that to keep it operational?
Right.
Through all that process?
Yeah, I think that the best way that we can do that is through grants and also by incentives. We need to make sure that those small businesses, which are the ones that employ the most amount of people, are able not to survive, but also to thrive and be able to generate more jobs. The Walmarts, the Walgreens, the CVS, they're good, but if we have local people that want to have a pharmacy, why are we going to allow those big guys block them to fulfill their dream? And sometimes those small pharmacies carry medicines that the big ones didn't carry because they are for big pharma. Small pharmacies tend to do natural things, homeopathic remedies, all of those things you don't see in the Walmart pharmacy or Walgreens or CVS. So yes, I support local businesses and provide safeguards so they can compete and be able to thrive in that environment.
Okay. Now, one more question to that question. You spoke on employment. After the pandemic, a lot of businesses had to let a lot of employees go and incentive stuff like that. So a lot of company, everything came back. Are you doing anything in that particular district to improve the employment rates to go up and keep it up from where so after the pandemic, pretty much?
Yes, the first thing, I I was never agree to close businesses. If you're having this situation, it's been proved that coronavirus is a variation of the common cold. Actually, the common cold is a coronavirus, and is widely known. And closing everything was more like a political decision than real science. The problem is that at the local level, many cities, counties are dominated by Democrats. And the issue was that they were closing first because they were afraid, but when the news came out of how the things were being done in Japan and Switzerland and they never closed, they ignore them. If we have a sickness, a virus, or something that is affecting us, let's look for ways to protect us, but also to protect the economy, to protect the people earning their wages. Because, yeah, we can have programs to give money like we had in the past months, but at the end of the day, people are still starving. People are still not able to work. So, in order to do that, one of the things that I will be proposing is a better response to pandemics, a better response to natural disasters, because this is coronavirus, but it can be a hurricane. We had a hurricane in the Panhandle 2 years ago, and there was no jobs because everything was destroyed. So we need to have plans to respond to those situations without killing the economy and making sure that small businesses are able to come back, get all the employees employed again and ready to work. How we could do that? We can create something like an insurance system that people will be small business will be providing money to that fund, matched with government funding. So in case of an emergency like that, those businesses will have an account that they can grab that money, pay their employees, and get those businesses up and running. That's a possibility that can be implemented without bankrupting the government. So we need to start thinking how we can do more with less. How can we achieve the goals without getting bankrupt? And there are many ways that we can reduce costs in government and at the same time improve the services that we provide. So,
Follow. Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
yeah, we need to save our businesses. Those are the ones that pay the bill for everything else. We will not be able to provide emergency services if we don't have the money to pay for it. So
Absolutely.
that's the thing that we need to get into perspective.
Well, small business across the country is more than 75% of the local and national economy. The mom and pops that Frazier talked about. I just wanted to touch real quick on Corona because you said it was more like the cold. And the World Health Organization has basically labeled coronavirus just a little bit more active than that. I don't know if you've known people that have died from coronavirus, but um, in your opinion, do you feel that the virus wasn't serious enough, the response wasn't serious enough, or you feel like the the closings could have been done and handled a little bit differently? Because I think we all can agree here that coronavirus is a serious pandemic that's actually killing people.
Yes, and I will give my non-professional medical opinion.
Sure.
I was infected by coronavirus, and in 10 days I was completely cured because there was a treatment in place that was at the same day that I get the coronavirus positive result. I started a medicine called hydroxychloroquine, which is an antiviral and an anti-inflammatory, plus antibiotics, plus vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, anti decongestant, and all of that together get me out of it in less than 10 days. The problem with coronavirus, I've been researching about this, is when you get the virus in, you get inflamed in all your body. It not just the upper respiratory system, it's your whole body. So if you get something to combat that, if you get something to combat the infection, because you got the virus, but also you have a bacteria that will grow in your respiratory system. If you attack that bacteria right away, and you start with an antiviral right away, natural, which is vitamin D, C, and zinc, you will attack the problem quick, and your body will heal in no time. Less than 5 days, it will be out. The problem with coronavirus was people were diagnosed with positive result, and they were told, because I got the same recommendation, stay home, drink liquids. If you get bad, come to the hospital.
Hmm.
There was a lot of people that waited until they were not able to breathe to then go to the hospital. When they go to the hospital, they were already so much congested and with so many problems, they put in the respirator and they die. If you attack this problem quick, people will not die. I hope that the medical professionals at the higher levels implement that, and we will not have so many deaths. Right now, we are entering flu season. If we don't attack flu season the right way, we will have two pandemics going on. So
Right.
those are the things that we need to look through it and implement the science, not the politics.
Right.
Because before this coronavirus, everything was perfect. And unemployment was in the lowest for African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, whites, everybody. Everybody has a job. So the economy was good. Everything was good. Coronavirus came in. We became super afraid. We closed everything and look in the situation that we are right now. Thank God, though, we don't have any major hurricanes impacting us here in Florida, because that would be
True.
super catastrophic.
True.
So those are the things that I plan that when I'm in the Florida House of Representatives, I will try to be the reasonable voice, calling the governor, calling everybody, and saying we need to get those things done quick and in the right way. We cannot give in to fear, because that's how we lose everything. Not only lives, but our businesses and our way of life.
Frazier, I just got to follow up on that real quick. I see you getting
I'm
ready.
gonna follow it too. I'm gonna follow it too.
Go ahead, Frazier. I'm gonna keep my question in my mind, but go ahead, Frazier.
So you were saying about how the slow reaction to it, slow response, and everything. What are some of the things you're going to play a bill, policies, or something locally that you can give power to the local government if the bigger government does not choose to help the lower response? Because it's proven that sometimes the lower government has more power than upper government in certain areas. And by you being there in Tampa, you know small towns has a little more response or later on getting help because of the fact of the matter, they're not in the bigger cities, not New York or the Californias or certain shit like that. Now, what would your policies be implement for the smaller towns who can't get that quick response at the bigger cities?
Right.
Yeah, what I plan is one of my backgrounds is emergency management, and I've been trained by FEMA for many years in different areas, and I keep up to date. So one of the things that I want to introduce is that we need to plan for emergencies like this. We cannot just think, okay, we live in Florida, hurricanes, okay, that's it. No, we need to go further, and to if we have another pandemic, this will be the guidelines by the state law that will be implemented in every county, every city of the state, and we will provide in that bill the guidelines for the local governments to react to the situation, whichever it is. Here in Hillsborough County, we have an emergency team that was composed of county commissioners, school board, the sheriff, and the county administrator. That group was originally intended for emergencies like hurricane, earthquakes, or anything like that. So that group was managing the response to coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
That group implemented wearing masks. That group implemented a quarantine, and they didn't have enough information to make those decisions. Plus, having the sheriff in that group making policy, and then the sheriff was the one implementing the policy. So that's a conflict of interest, because right now, I don't know if you remember, that group said that no churches will be able to open. And then 2 days later, the sheriff was the one going to a church and arresting the pastor for opening the church. A church that has all the necessary security measures in place, devices to clean the environment. They were having social distancing, mask, hand sanitizer, everything in place according to the CDC guidelines. But still, the pastor got arrested. So if we provide real guidelines that apply to every county in the state, the next time that we have an emergency like this, it will not be different responses in different areas. So that's what we need to get done in paper, so everybody is aware and comply with it.
Absolutely. Okay, so my question, sir, you sound like, to me, every politician that is running for office, because I'm an independent, I'm not a Democrat or I'm not a Republican, because I don't believe that ideals belong to one group of people. Good ideals are good ideals, and everything that you're saying is great ideals, but what we find out in New Jersey, Florida, Delaware, and other places is good people like yourself go into the system, and then within 6, 7 months, their policies are gone because all the senior politicians that have been there kind of tell the junior politicians how things run in the state house, and that's how it's going to go. And we see that not just in every state house in the country, at least in New Jersey. I can't say that too much for Florida because I don't live there, but we also see that in our federal politics too, in the Congress and the Senate. Everybody says, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is great until they get there and they close that door. And the next thing you know, their idealism, their enthusiasm, everything just crumbles a little bit and they just become right in line. How can you guarantee the people of your district that you will stick true to your values and really fight for them as opposed to becoming a yes man once you get elected should you win your seat?
I'm a fighter, and I've been always doing following my principles, following my plans. And I've been talking to a lot of people here in my district that have your same concern. And what I tell them is, I'm not a regular politician, but you should not be a regular constituent. You have my phone number, you have my email, you will know where my office is located. If for any reason you see that I'm not doing what I promised, go to my office, call me or send me an email and remind me my promises. And the other thing is, I will rely on my constituents. So if I'm implementing my agenda, the one that got me elected,
Mm-hmm.
and my fellow representatives are not cooperating with those ideas, my plan is that I will mobilize all my constituents and constituents of other jurisdictions in the state of Florida to call their representatives so they can push them in the public opinion arena so they can comply with the bills that I'm proposing. Because I'm not proposing something weird or strange. It's common sense, like business practices, uh, the justice system, education, things that are common sense to everybody, regardless of the party affiliation. You bring something that good ideals are not of one party. The problem is that we are facing right now is the Democrat Party that we have in 2020 is not the Democrat Party of 1960 of John F. Kennedy. It's a complete different set of ideas. It's completely bent to socialism, to ideas that are not American. And in this moment, the American ideals, the American patriotism is not residing in the Democrat Party. So we need to win this election and then educate people so we can bring to the years where the differences between Republicans and Democrats were slight differences. But everyone loved this country. Everybody loved the flag. Everybody supported the armed forces. And everybody was in the same boat going into the same direction. Right now, people are going in different directions, and the country is not moving in the right way.
I agree with you, but I have to also interject and say that the Republican Party of 2020 is not the same Republican Party, even of George W. Bush. Believe it or not, George W. Bush couldn't get elected in 2016 based on the Republican Party that we've seen. The Republican Party, in my opinion, from what I've seen, was the Bible bearers. They were the ones that always talked about character. They were the ones that always talked about truth and integrity. And then you turn around, and even though you can say Democrats did it, my point is because the Democrats did it, you shouldn't do it because you were the one that was supposed to hold the character and integrity and say, I stood for that in 86, 96, 2006, 2016, and I stand for that now. Not cow down and say, oh, well, yeah, I said this then. As easy as 2017, and all of a sudden now you're seeing a different tune because for me, the reason why I'm an independent is because I don't like people that talk out of both sides of their mouth. I never have. As a business owner, I can't be in business with people that talk out of both sides of their mouths. We can't be partners. You can't have clients or customers that talk out of both sides of their mouth because you can't make a living on that. You see what I mean? And I don't compromise my politics with that because if you can set aside your morals, your character, your honesty for politics, then I feel like you can do it in your personal life. I feel like you can do it in your business life. I feel like you can do it in anything, if you're willing to set aside your morals for your politics and make that excuse. So I definitely agree with you, but I also would like to just interject. I don't think the Republican Party of 2020
Oh,
on the
and,
national level,
and
is the same party.
yeah, the thing is that we have a platform
Right.
as a party, and that platform is one of the best platforms that you can find. But we have a problem, and is that we are not making politicians, Republican politicians, commit to that platform. And I'm seeing Republicans that get elected as Republicans, but they don't behave like Republicans according to our platform. They don't vote according to our principles. And they go the way of the lobbyists and the way of the money. And I'm against that. That's why I'm running, because I saw Republican politicians that were not defending our values. They were, for example, you mentioned Bush. Bush was part of the globalist movement. And that's why we lost so many jobs here in the United States because we need to be a global, be in a global economy. We need to contribute and be world citizens. No, if we elect Donald Trump, because we're in 2020, to be the president of the United States, is America first. We need to make sure that Americans have a plate to eat at night, to have a shelter where to live, to have means to produce an income. And that's our responsibility. I care about the people in other countries that are starving, but how can I provide in other countries for people starving when I have people starving in the streets of Tampa? How
Absolutely.
can I provide for houses in other countries when I have homeless people in the streets of Tampa? So we need to provide for our people first, be strong, everybody's in the right place, of course, then we can help others. It's like, for example, we are spreading democracy through the world, but there is 3.5 million US citizens that are not able to elect the president or have representation in Congress. And I'm talking about the island of Puerto Rico. So how can we talk about liberating Kuwait if Puerto Ricans are in the island and are not able to vote for the president and have representation in Congress? So
Well, they
those are the,
do have representation, but they don't have voting
they
representation.
don't have voting representation, which at the end of the
And
day, if they cannot vote in Congress, they will not have the power to properly negotiate and have someone that can do something for those 3.5 million
I
Americans.
definitely agree with you,
Yeah.
110%. Because their voting prowess, you see it during the Democrat. I mean, it's not the Democratic primaries. I apologize, but you see it during the primaries. They can vote during the primaries, but
Yeah.
they just can't vote during a major election. And when
And for
you
example,
have a
I
president that
voted
sits in
in
the
Puerto
White
Rico.
House that was saying he was considering selling Puerto Rico, that doesn't make me feel good, or that they're just lazy people after the hurricane that happened. My relatives and my in-laws in Puerto Rico, they were part of the ones that went and took the chainsaws and spent their own money cutting the trees down because
But
he refused to have the proper response for them. So when you
I
speak
want to
about Puerto
clarify
Rico,
that.
not to cut you off, sorry, not to cut you off, but when you speak about Puerto Rico, I'm a little bit sensitive about that because I know what we went through. We had to rescue my in-laws from Puerto Rico when they went through that hurricane. They actually lost food, completely ran out of food on Sunday. They weren't on a plane until Tuesday morning. When I saw my mother-in-law, she said she was so hungry she didn't know what to do. Now you just imagine a 69-year-old woman telling you that to your face when you finally see her. They weren't uh, they weren't happy to be here. They had the psychologist said it was victim's remorse. They felt bad because they left their friends and all their neighbors in that atmosphere. So that's my um, that's my
And
history with Puerto Rico.
yeah, my parents went to the island to because they still have a house in there. So they went to the island before Irma,
Mm,
which is the first hurricane. Somehow they get stuck in there. They were moving their car to bring it over here to Florida. They get stuck through Irma and Maria. My parents went through the same thing. The problem is their situation was not a problem of the federal government because the federal government sent all the necessary assistance, manpower, equipment, supplies, but the state government in Puerto Rico is a complete failure, and the
I
local
agree.
government were a complete failure. I I live in Puerto Rico all my life until I was 38, so I know how it works. I work in Puerto Rico with the local government. I was in emergency management with the local government, and they are requirements that you have to have before emergencies. For
Right.
example, you need to do surveys to determine which areas are prone to flooding,
Mhm.
which areas has a population of senior citizens, people with disabilities, and you need to have those surveys and that information in place to determine when to evacuate people, when to move those residents, where to put them, because you can evacuate, but if you don't have a shelter to put them on, then you don't have nothing done. So
Right.
the local cities in there fail in that part. And when FEMA activated the emergency response, they start asking for the information, nowhere to be found. The other thing is all the help that was sent, it was stopped at the port because the people that were in charge of distributing the truckers were asking for $50 an hour in order to go out and distribute. And they want to go by themselves. They didn't want any police escort or anything because at the end they were selling stuff to other people. Mayors receive help and distribute it to their friends, not to the rest of the population. This year, at the beginning of 2020, there were 2 different warehouses that they were found with food, water, generators that were not used during the emergency of Maria. They
Right.
receive it and leave it there.
Right.
So it's easy to blame the president because here we don't know exactly what's going on in there. But I know how it works. I was in conference calls every day during the emergency of Maria, and I have firsthand knowledge of the many times that the federal authorities were asking information in order to implement the assistance. Nothing. People were complaining that they lost their house and FEMA was not rebuilding their house. The problem is many people there live in houses that they buy, but they don't have a title for it. And it's in the name of somebody else. So when you go to FEMA and you ask, I lost my house, bring me evidence that you had a house there because now it's nothing there. Oh, I don't have a title. I don't have any documents. That's how things were in Puerto Rico and still are.
Right,
The other,
because it's generational. Okay, my wife's grandfather, when he died, he had a title, but it was passed down from his grandfather. Okay, so he lived in that house. So it's her great great grandfather's house that her grandfather died in. But that's the only title that he had. It still had the old man's title name on the title, who had died in the 59, 56, somewhere around there. And so her grandfather was living in that house that he eventually died in. So my father-in-law had to dig out the paperwork and get the everything that he needed to prove that it was my wife's great great grandfather's house that her grandfather died in, and that was a process in itself. So I definitely understand
the
that.
other problem is politicians in Puerto Rico know that that is a problem, and nobody cares because people that have money have their titles. People that have money have everything up to date. Everything is fine and dandy, but is the people that don't have money are the ones that are suffering.
Right.
The people that are in the higher echelons of society in Puerto Rico have access to everything. They were not complaining after the hurricane. So we need to work on rebuilding the government in Puerto Rico. We need to use the federal power. If it's something Donald Trump failed with Puerto Rico, was not to remove the governor and name a new government to clean the house. Because with all the corruption that is in Puerto Rico right now, FBI arrested the education secretary last year. The FBI right now arrested a state representative. So there is a lot of corruption. And we need to fix that in order to help the people, the U.S. citizens living in Puerto Rico. Right now, they will be voting for statehood, yes or no, in November 3rd. That would be good if Puerto Rico becomes a state. But there is so many things that needs to be fixed in order for Puerto Rico to be a real state of the union. So everybody there will
Can
be
I
able
just
to.
Ask you real quick. I thought that they already voted for statehood and it was on the president's desk, but he refused to sign it. He said because they were poor, a poor island.
No, that's not true. That's propaganda, because when people in Puerto Rico voted for statehood was in 2012,
Okay.
and the new governor that was elected in Puerto Rico, didn't want statehood, so he didn't implement it. Barack Obama didn't look away, so that what happened in 2012. 2017, there was another referendum, but nothing was done in Congress, because the thing is, the president is not the one that gives statehood to any territory.
The
It's
Congress.
Congress. A
Right.
bill has to be created in Congress, approved in the House of Representatives, approved in the Senate, and then goes to the president to be signed. And then it has to be ratified in the territory. So that's how it works. So Donald Trump never had a bill approved by Congress and the Senate to sign for statehood.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Oh, got a question for you. Based on what you said before, I think the Puerto Rico was last response, and to pay back what George said about it being a poor country to them, not considered as importance as some states. We have states in the United States also, and we're saying small states that don't have big government. Same we talked about a few minutes ago. Like what policy when you in the Senate that you can assure that doesn't happen, be overlooked. Like if they say you work in emergency services, that the firefighters, the sheriffs, all them work together in a certain policy. There's one policy thing, one bill. They all think together on emergency services and don't oversee. They said they had a committee, and the sheriff oversee the committee and also implement his own policies.
Right.
What assurance you can do to ensure that does not happen again? Because you know one body functions better as one unit versus a separate activity,
Right.
and versus that. And they say like, not to say someone corruption. I mean, it could be considered the same thing. Overseeing a committee, not this way. What thing you can put in policy, you can put in place so that does not happen again.
Yeah, one of the things that make us unique in the world is the separation of powers. We cannot have individuals from the executive be part of a legislative team and create policy and then implement it. So that's something that can be fixed in the state level. So any jurisdiction, either county or city, will be able to comply with that. We can fix that at the state level. Second, we need to make sure that we don't forget about small, poor neighborhoods. Right now in Hillsborough County, you have places that are super rich people. You can even eat on the street because it's so clean. But then you have neighborhoods that are Hispanic, Black, and that looks different. And I know that people throw trash and everything, but we need to start educating people, and we start to improve the areas. We can go to any neighborhood, clean the neighborhood, fix whatever is broken, and then empower the people living in those neighborhoods to keep things clean, to keep this working, and making sure to every citizen that they can pick up the phone and call the local authorities for anything and will be fixed. For example, here in Tampa, you can spit and it's flood. Any rain will create a flood. Why? Because we don't have a right and proper system to dispose of rainwater.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we have politicians saying, "Oh, we're going to fix that." They never do. I plan to work on that so we can remove those situations from the emergency list. Because right now, everything that we have a hurricane, the first thing that we have to do is evacuate 50,000 people from South Tampa because that area will be flooded.
Right.
If we have a hurricane coming directly into Tampa, we're going to experience 12 feet of water in downtown Tampa.
Hmm.
If the eye of the hurricane comes into the city, we'll experience 12 feet of water. I read that in a report from the Corps of Engineers. So if we know that already, we can work on disposing rainwater. We can work with having pumps to remove seawater coming in the inside the city and prevent loss of life, loss of property, and we can reduce the amount of insurance that we have, property insurance that we have to pay. So that will reflect in the pockets of every citizen of Tampa. So those are the common sense things that I will bring to the Florida House of Representatives and spread it out to the rest of the government in the state of Florida. And one of the things that I plan to do once I'm elected, I will spend time with every state agency and see how things are implemented, how the budget is used to make good recommendations. Because right now, people sit in the Florida House and work things out there the way that people are reporting to them. I plan to be in the front lines looking at things by myself. As a retired Army National Guardsman, I plan to go out with the Florida National Guard and see how things are being done right now in 2020. Because I need to learn that I know that things change. I retired in 2004. So, how things are done now? I plan to be on the water with the fish and wildlife people and see how things are done and how they implement and use their budgets with the firefighters, with the police, with the state troopers, because that's the way I can have firsthand knowledge of what needs to be improved, how can we change things. And we have a problem right now that people are complaining about the police and police brutality. We need to educate the people how to work with police, and we need to educate police how to work with people. And we need to make sure that every guy in a neighborhood knows who are the policemen, and the policemen know the neighborhood, so they can talk, they can interact, they can solve problems, and people will be helping the police combat crime because the people will know that police have their back. And we need to make sure that everybody can have a bad day. And a married guy or a woman can fight with the significant other and then take it on the street with the first citizen that they find. That can happen.
Right.
That doesn't mean that that person has a systematic idea of I will hit this kind of people today. I will hit the black or the Asian or the Jews. Maybe not. Maybe yes. And even in those cases, we can identify who are they. For example, you can check social media. You can check the neighbors. And if you have a neo-Nazi, make sure that we take them out of the police force. And we can know that they will be writing on social media. They will have propaganda in their cars. We can tell. So we need to attack those issues and make sure that our police forces are what they should be.
All right.
And the majority are good, but we have some bad apples that we need to take care of.
Absolutely. Well, we only have a few seconds left, sir. I thank you for coming on our show and having a real talk and
Yeah.
conversation about politics, life, your district. We definitely wish you well in your success, and we pray that, God willing, you are successful in your election bid. But we would definitely love to have you on our show again because we know that there's a lot more questions that we want to
Exactly.
ask you. And also, too, your ideals are the same ideals that we've talked about on this show. Like I said, ideals are not unique to one party individual. And I think that if you could get a national platform where you can say those ideals will work. That's common sense ideals that we've been pushing for here in New Jersey in our area. So if they can work in Florida, they can work in New Jersey, they can work in Kansas, they can work in Wyoming, you know, and I'm just thankful that you came on and said that, you know, because that needs to be heard. It's not Democrat, it's not Republican, we're Americans.
American.
Exactly, American.
Hey,
Keyword.
this is George,
This is Frazier.
and this is Real Talk with George and Frazier. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
May God bless you all.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you.